When we first got started a couple years ago with this, the experts were telling us that there was trapping capacity for another 10 to 15 years. One thing this study that just come out shows is that it's full. It's at equilibrium and it's full. Now, you know, one thing I learned was when the dam was first built, the depth of the water just north of the dam was 120 feet deep. Today, it's less than 20 feet deep, which means that 100 and some feet is sediment that stretches for 14 miles north of that dam. That's an amazing amount of sediment. The experts that are saying we're wrong are the same experts that told us we had 10 or 15 years of trapping capacity left. Now, that should have been an easy thing to figure. You could have went at least to me, and I'm not a scientist, but I know what a boat with a depth finder, you can find out the depth of the water. You should certainly be easy to figure when it's full. But all the experts told us, oh, don't worry about it, 10 or 15 years left. My next question is, if they were wrong about it being full, how long has it been full? Because since Hurricane Agnes, the depth of the bay has been speeding up. Tropical Storm Lee comes, how long has it been full and how long have we ignored this? I really believe that a lot of the groups that are finding fault with what we do are finding fault with what we are saying because, quite frankly, I think they've been asleep at the switch and have ignored this issue for so long that they're afraid to be proven that they have ignored it for this long. Well, I'll tell you one thing I do trust, and this is something that I know for a fact, is that the oyster industry in the upper part of the bay has been destroyed not by nitrogen and phosphorus, but by sediment. We have people that dive for oysters who see it this close to them. They see the bottom. Our oyster bars in the upper part of the bay historically were acres and thousands of acres of oysters and shells, and the shells were protruded off of the bottom, piles of them. The baby oysters have to filter through those shells, find something clean to attach to, and that's where they grow and spend the rest of their life until they're harvested. Divers go down now, as well as DNR has had divers in the area recently, and those oyster bars look like the beach at Ocean City, where they're covered up with sediment. Now that sediment come from someplace. In one of the interviews on the Chestertown Spy, this Bruce Michael stated that don't worry about this plume because it settles out rather quickly. Well, I don't know what it means when it says it settles out quickly. What it does, it doesn't disappear. It settles to the bottom, and that's when it does the majority of its destruction because it smothers and covers over the oysters and prevents them from reproducing and kills and smothers what's there along with the grasses. So that to me was kind of a foolish statement. Don't worry about the 19 million tons. It settles out very quickly. The fact that it settles out is what causes so much of an issue. I'm convinced that sediment has been the destruction of the entire Upper Bay. The one place they'll tell you that, oh, but the oyster industry's coming back. That is a fact in some areas of the Chop Tank, and this is what is the Chop Tank, the Honga River, and the Tangier Sound. Now these are areas that are supplied through a watershed where you really have the majority of your chicken farmers in the lower eastern shore. They're doing great because they're around the corner from the main stem of the bay. They don't get that ferociousness of the stuff coming down the Conowingo Dam. They're around the corner in the tributaries, and they're out of the direct contact of the Conowingo dams, and plus they allow power dredging there, which drags these scrapes and cleans your shells up and gets that sediment. What sediment is there gets it all, and the oysters have a chance of coming back. So it's a little odd to me that the areas they want to put all the emphasis on the nitrogen and phosphorus, and the areas where the oysters are coming back are the areas where the chicken farmers are the most, I mean, they got 10 chicken houses down there for every one we have up here. So the idea that it's all about the chicken and the agricultural community, I think, is hogwash. I think up here, what's killed us is the sediment coming down through the Conowingo Dam. Well, I'm not going to be one of them that's going to tell you that I'm not an expert, because when it comes to the oyster business, I might be an expert. I'll debate, I'll tell my story and debate that with anybody else. And you can call me an expert, you don't have to call me an expert. But I've lived it. My 27 years of my adult life revolved around it. I can only tell you what I saw, and I can tell you where the oyster industry is doing good, and I can tell you where it's not doing good. And I can tell you what we see on our oyster bars. It's not new nitrogen and phosphorus floating around. It's the sediment has completely covered up these oyster bars, and they will never ever come back unless something's done to alleviate or uncover these things.
So for you, it's all about sediment?
It is. I don't want to say all about sediment. I can tell you that, in my view, sediment is the #1 culprit when it comes to not only the oyster industry, but the aquatic grasses. The sediment, nitrogen and phosphorus, I don't know how sediment makes the water cloudy, as you can see in this photo. Without the sunlight being able to penetrate the water, the grasses aren't going to grow. And that's a direct result of the sediment that's coming down, turning the water brown, and the lack of sunlight, so we don't have any underwater grasses. I remember as late as in the late 60s and 70s, before Agnes, we didn't need day markers in our creeks to show you where the channel was, because the grass grew from the top to the bottom out to about 6 feet of water. Anything beyond that, you wouldn't see any grass, and it was like a highway. And you didn't need buoys to show you where the channel was. All you done was followed the clear water. It was very easy. Now that's all gone. It's no grass from shore to shore. It's all gone. But it's, to me, sediment is an extremely deadly component that's or chemical that's put into this bay that's ridiculed the upper part of the bay. I'm not going to say that nitrogen and phosphorus isn't a problem. I think the #1 problem is the sediment. I think when you're talking about the greatest freshwater estuary in the world, I don't think that Chesapeake Bay can have too many friends. So even though we have a governor that has stated publicly that he agrees with some of what we've said and is going to take a look at it, I think that for us to become absent now, I think he would probably look forward to some of our help, maybe, or our advice, or some of the science that we've been able to accumulate to strengthen this argument that maybe Pennsylvania and New York need to do more. Maybe we do need to take a look at dredging, but to quit now, I think our farming community needs us. And needs the expertise that we can bring to the table. The seafood business needs us. I hope Governor Hogan needs us when he gets in business. So the last thing I intend to do is to not be a part of it. I've been a part of it from the beginning. I intend. Now, we're going to start having some meetings. Obviously, our mission may have changed to some degree, because instead of an administration that disagreed with us, we evidently at least have a governor that is listening. So we're going to have some meetings here soon to decide where we're going and what direction we'll be putting our efforts in. But to walk away now, I don't think that's in the cards. And there's no reason why these groups can't come together and work together rather than be divided. Because I can tell you, there isn't a person involved in any of these that wants to see a difference in the Chesapeake Bay than me. Yeah. And I'm willing to work with anybody in any manner in trying to do anything that we can to make that happen. Yeah. And I've had people tell me, well, I don't care about what's going on in the bay. I'm just concerned about the tributary out in front of my house. Well, in my opinion, it's all one ecosystem. The day the main stem of that Chesapeake Bay dies, the tributaries will die right behind them. So You know, if you're only looking at one section of this and worrying about that, you're wasting your time. I mean, it's like the human body. You let the main part of the body die, the extremities are going to follow right behind it. So I think it's important that whether you're the Chester River keeper or the Susquehanna River keeper or the CCC or the Chesapeake Bay, there's enough common ground that instead of criticizing one another about what they're trying to do, we need to join with one another and accomplish something.